Some cities are so top secret they can't even be found on a map, whether they are hidden in the forest or buried deep underground. Here are 10 underground places in Switzerland that are hidden from the public. Hidden beneath Aarau lies the Meierschei Stollen, a forgotten underground marvel built between 1791 and 1803 by silk industrialist Johann Meyer. This 2-kilometer water tunnel once powered a massive 9.75-meter water wheel, driving mills that fueled Switzerland's early industrial rise. For decades, it was abandoned, sealed, and lost from memory. Then, in the 1980s, locals rediscovered this forgotten maze and restored it for guided tours. Today, when visitors step inside, they're walking through history itself, dark, echoing halls where water once roared. But this is just the beginning, because the next underground city wasn't about silk, it was about war. Carved into the very Alps, Fortress St. Maurice is no ordinary hideout. It's a sprawling underground city of war. Built during the World Wars, its 3 forts, Cindy, Sex, and Daly, were designed to hold hundreds of soldiers deep inside the rock. Connected by tunnels stretching up to 8 kilometers, it housed artillery positions, barracks, and command posts. Even more incredible, the Grot Aux phase, a natural cave with a 77-meter underground waterfall, is tied into the fortress network. Walking here feels like stepping into a James Bond film. Yet Switzerland's underground world didn't stop with war. Soon, it went fully modern. Imagine walking under Zurich's busiest square and finding yourself inside Europe's very first underground shopping city. That Shopville opened in 1970 beneath Bahnhofplatz. For over 20 years, every pedestrian crossing Zurich Central Square was routed through this hidden concourse, filled with shops, cafes, and easy access to trains, trams, and buses. It was a futuristic experiment that worked, transforming Zurich's underground into a buzzing commercial hub. Even today, renamed Bahnhof Passage, it still thrives beneath the streets. But what lies even deeper below Zurich's main station is far more impressive: a world of hidden platforms and secret rail tunnels. Beneath Zurich's Grand Central Station lies an underground rail labyrinth built in 2 stages. First came the Hirschengraben Tunnel in 1989, adding 4 deep-level S-Bahn platforms, tracks 41 to 44. Then, in 2014, the Weinberg Tunnel added 4 more, tracks 31 to 34, linking eastwards to Erlikon. This underground expansion turned Zurich HB into one of Europe's most complex transport hubs. Tens of thousands of passengers move through its hidden levels every day, never realizing how much city lies above them. Yet while Zurich built for commuters, other underground Swiss projects prepared for something far darker: the possibility of global war. During the Cold War, Switzerland quietly prepared for the unthinkable. With nuclear tensions rising between superpowers, the Swiss government ordered the construction of thousands of civil protection shelters. These weren't small basements. They were massive bunkers designed to house entire communities if nuclear war broke out. By law, every new home had to include shelter space, meaning that Switzerland became the only country in the world where there were enough bunkers for nearly the entire population. One of the most impressive was the facility in Gallienwald. Hidden beneath the ground, it contained not only sleeping quarters and food storage, but also a command center, a hospital, and even a secure vault to protect priceless works of art from destruction. Walking through these places today feels eerie. Everything is frozen in time: bunk beds, gas masks, medical rooms, all waiting for a catastrophe that never came. It's a chilling reminder of just how close the world came to disaster, and how seriously Switzerland prepared. But as impressive as these shelters were, some underground complexes weren't just about hiding people. They were designed as full military fortresses carved directly into the Alps. High above Lake Lucerne sits Festung Führingen, a fortress carved into the rock during World War II. Built between 1941 and 1942, its purpose was simple but crucial: defend Switzerland from any Axis invasion that might come through the valleys. Soldiers stationed here lived in pitch-dark tunnels for weeks, their lives revolving around gun emplacements, narrow passageways, and tiny dormitories cut into the mountain. The fortress bristled with artillery batteries and machine gun nests, all pointing toward the approaches from Lake Lucerne. Imagine standing in one of those gun galleries, staring out across the lake, knowing your duty was to stop tanks and aircraft with every shell. When the Cold War came, the fortress continued to play a role in Switzerland's defense network. It wasn't decommissioned until 1988, after nearly half a century of service. Today, it has been transformed into a museum where visitors can see not only the preserved weapons and bunk rooms, but also get a sense of the psychological pressure soldiers endured underground. It feels frozen in time, as if the soldiers just stepped out for a moment. But Furigen was only the beginning. The Gotthard region held a secret fortress that dwarfed it in scale. Deep in the Gotthard Massif lies Sasso San Gottardo, one of Switzerland's most secretive and massive underground fortresses. Built between 1943 and 1999, this sprawling military complex was hidden inside the mountain itself. Stretching across 4 kilometers of tunnel, it was armed with heavy gun batteries, stockpiles of ammunition, and living quarters capable of housing 500 soldiers for extended periods. For decades, it remained a top-secret installation, a silent guardian of the country's most important mountain pass. Soldiers stationed here lived under strict secrecy, never revealing the true scale of the underground labyrinth they served in. Today, Sasso San Gottardo has been converted into the Experience World Gotthard Museum, which allows visitors to explore its endless galleries. Walking through, you don't feel like you're in a bunker. You feel like you're inside an underground city with winding corridors, command rooms, and storage halls stretching endlessly into the rock. It reveals just how determined Switzerland was to remain unbroken, no matter what threats came from outside. But not all underground defenses looked like massive military fortresses. Some were cleverly hidden in plain sight, disguised as ordinary Swiss houses. Beneath Lucerne's Sonnenberg Mountain lies one of the most ambitious civil defense shelters ever imagined. Built in 1976, the Sonnenberg Motorway Tunnel wasn't just a road. It doubled as the world's largest nuclear shelter, designed to keep Switzerland alive if war turned nuclear. Its twin road tubes could transform into protective chambers for nearly 20,000 civilians, complete with blast doors that could seal off the outside world. But behind the roads lay something even more astonishing, a 7-story underground cavern. Inside were command centers, kitchens, hospitals, dormitories, and even a working radio studio meant to keep the nation connected while buried underground. Soldiers trained here to run Switzerland from below the surface, ready to broadcast instructions to a terrified population. When the Cold War ended, the massive capacity was scaled back to about 2,000, but much of the command post remains intact. Since 2008, the site has been open to visitors, giving ordinary people the chance to walk through one of the most extreme survival engineering projects ever built. Standing in its echoing halls, you can almost hear the tension of a world that once prepared for the unthinkable. But Sonnenberg wasn't unique. Switzerland scattered powerful fortresses across its mountains too, some much older. At the southern gateway to the Gotthard Pass, Fort Airolo was one of Switzerland's earliest major underground military installations. Constructed between 1887 and 1890, its purpose was clear: defend a strategic railway line piercing through the Alps. A 1.1-kilometer tunnel connected the fort to the Gotthard Rail Tunnel, allowing troops to move unseen between the mountain strongholds. Its thick stone walls and hidden gun positions made it a formidable defensive point in an era of growing European tension. Just a few years later, Fort Espizio was added at a higher elevation, armed with 2 massive 120mm gun turrets. From this commanding height, its cannons could sweep across the pass, ready to block any invading force. Both forts blended seamlessly into the rocky landscape, their power disguised by nature itself. Though weapons were mounted, no great battles ever came, leaving these forts as silent witnesses to a century of preparation. Today, their museums, open mostly in summer, where visitors can walk through chilly tunnels, barracks, and gun turrets once manned by soldiers who drilled endlessly but never fired in combat. Exploring them feels like stepping through a ghostly time machine, where the stillness of stone corridors tells stories of vigilance and fear. But Switzerland's most secretive underground facility wasn't meant for ordinary soldiers. It was built for the government itself. Hidden away in Amsterdam during World War II, deep in the heart of Uri, lies one of Switzerland's most secretive underground projects, Project 1102. This was no ordinary bunker. Built with reinforced rock chambers and blast-resistant structures, it served as a command post for the Swiss Federal Council, the very government of the nation. Spanning more than 3,000 square meters over 2 levels, it was designed to keep the country's leaders alive and in control, even under the heaviest bombardment. Inside were meeting halls, communication systems, and secure living quarters, all hidden beneath layers of mountain stone. For decades, its existence was classified, known only to a handful of officials and military planners. Ordinary Swiss citizens never knew their leaders could vanish into this subterranean stronghold if war erupted. When the Cold War ended, secrecy gave way to commerce. In 2002, the bunker was sold to Swiss Gold Safe, a private company, and repurposed into a high-security bullion vault. Today, instead of politicians, it protects treasure. Unlike other underground sites in Switzerland, this one remains closed to the public. Yet its very existence changes how we see the country. Not just as a land of mountains, cheese, and neutrality, but as a nation that spent decades building an invisible world beneath its soil, prepared for a future that, thankfully, never arrived.